In this video, we're continuing on with Project 1. So at this point, we have a MyWeb account created at Chico State. You've sent me your information about that account so that I can get you added to the class website. You've downloaded the template files, which come in as a zip file. So you have this zip file. You've opened that up, extracted it so that you now have this folder of information. And next thing, this video is about configuring Dreamweaver so that Dreamweaver can connect to MyWeb and so that we can upload files to the MyWeb directory, therefore making them viewable on a website. So that's what we need to look at this point. So I'm going to hide this away. This is just our class website here, and going to switch over to Dreamweaver. Now I already have Dreamweaver running so that you don't have to watch it launch. Hopefully that'd be pretty quick. Once we are here in Dreamweaver, we need to first find the Files panel. So looking at my screen right now, I've got the Files panel sitting over here, tucked away with some of the other panels. If you don't find it, if it's not showing up, then you would go up to Window and find Files. See, mine is checked, so it's already showing on the screen. If yours is not showing, then you would select that, and then it would display. Once you find the Files panel, look in the far right, and you'll see this little button right here to expand. It says expand to show local and remote sites. We're going to click on that, and that expands it so that we can see more information within this panel. This actually is the way that I usually use this window. I'll tell you more about that as we go. Now right now I actually have a site set up. There's some work for the Chico Art Center you see sitting right there. So this is how we're going to configure Dreamweaver to see our files and be able to push them up to the web server. So what we want to do is we want to go up to the Site menu up here and say New Site. That brings up a dialog box for us. We can start filling in our information here. So first we need a site name. We can simply call it MyWeb because that's the name that we're using. The name can be anything you want, just as long as it's something descriptive, so you can tell what site it is you're looking at. As you saw a second ago, the Chico Art Center is listed here. If I were to click on that, you would see a whole list of sites of different things that I work on periodically. So MyWeb is descriptive. Now we have to pick the local site folder, and you can click on this icon down here, the folder icon at the end. So it says Browse for Folder. I'm going to click on that. It gives us a standard dialog box, and what I want to do at this point is we have put the folder on our desktop. So I've clicked on the desktop icon over here, and you see right there, there's my local MyWeb site. So there's the folder that contains our index file, the other folders in it. So I'm going to select that and say Choose. Okay, so now I've told it where my local files are. The next step I need to do is go over and click on the Servers tab over here. So this is where I'm going to tell it where the web server is. So I need to go down and click on the plus icon. You see it says Add New Server. Again, I get a dialog box. We're just going to stick in the basic settings. We need a server name. Okay, so the server in this case, MyWeb, again, works well, so we might as well go with MyWeb. We're going to connect using, now FTP is the default, which is File Transfer Protocol, but we actually need to use SFTP, so that's a Secure File Transfer Protocol. So make sure you switch to that. Then we need the address. The address is myweb.csuchico.edu. We've seen that address already, actually, in the web browser. It fixes the port number. We need to leave that alone. We come down to username. So this is your username. So mine is BM Hayes. And now type your password that you use. So I'll type mine in here. Okay, and I'm going to skip down to root directory. Now the root directory is the place where all of your website files sit. So you can upload files to MyWeb but they aren't all necessarily viewable as web pages. So they allow you to store other files up there. The ones that are viewable as web pages need to go in a special folder that is sitting up there, and it is named public HTML. So public and then the underscore HTML. Okay, so public HTML. At this point, I'm going to click on the test button. Oops. There we go. And you see it comes back and it tells me Adobe Dreamweaver CS6 connected to your web server successfully. So it was able to log in without any problem. So that's a good sign. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. Two little things I want to do before I leave this dialog box. One is I want to uncheck the save box right here. I want to do that because we're going to save our information off into a site definition file in a few minutes. And if you save it with your password in that file and then you forget and leave your file sitting in the computer lab, then other people have access to your site. So we want to turn that off. The one other thing I want to do is down here, the web URL. It tried to fill it in. So this would be the web address of our website. So it looks pretty good at the beginning, myweb.csuchico.edu, and then after that they put the public HTML, but that is not necessary when you're viewing a site. So we're going to delete that, and if you remember from our last video, what you use is the tilde and then your username. So BM Hayes for me. So myweb.csuchico.edu/tilde and your username. That's all that you need there. So now I'm going to click the Save button. You see that I now have my server set up. We've tested it, so we know it's working well. That's good. One last thing that I like to do before we finish our site setup here is to click over to the Advanced Settings tab. It opens this up and it drops us into the local info here. Two things I want to do here. One, this one's not necessary right now, but I think it's a good habit to be in. We get the default images folder. Again, I've got the icon down here. I'm going to click. It brought me into my local My Website folder. You see it sitting on my desktop. So it brought me right into there, and there's my images folder. So by default, that's the folder it's going to use to store images in. So I'm going to click on images and say choose. So we've got that set. The one other thing that I want to do is come down here and click on case-sensitive links checking. You can probably get away leaving it off. I think it's a nice option to have there. The reason being, Unix servers are quite often case sensitive. So the difference between, in fact, if we look up here, you see my images folder has the word images and it's all lowercase. So the I is lowercase. Early on I ran into problems where you're working on a site and sometimes you used lowercase I for images or sometimes you used an uppercase I for images. And depending on how you linked to those images when it went looking for the folder, you might run into problems. The Mac that we're working on right now treats them as being the same thing. A lot of Unix systems treats them as being different. And so if it's looking for images folder with a lowercase and you used an uppercase before, it's going to get confused. So all that said, this case-sensitive links checking right here just helps smooth out that process. It helps Dreamweaver look for these problems for you. Okay, we always want the enable cache on. I'll show you some uses of that in the future. At this point, I'm going to click on the Save button, and we've now created our site in Dreamweaver. So now that we have our website set up in Dreamweaver, let me show you a few things we've got going here. We have two sides to this dialog right here. The right-hand side here is the root folder, or the My Website folder that we have sitting on the desktop. In fact, if I go out here and look, this folder right here, that content is the exact same content as this right here. So this is just another window viewing that content. It's not a copy of the content, it is the same thing. That is the index file sitting in that folder on my desktop. Okay? So this is just how it views that information. Let's see. To edit a file in here, we'll go into this in more detail, but you would double click that file. We can open that file. This brought us by default into code view. We have split view, where we have the code separate from the WYSIWYG, so the UI to edit it, or we can go just to design view. By the way, your split view might look different than mine. I believe by default they're side by side, but I've set mine to work the other way. So if I go just to design view, now I can go in and edit something. So I could come in here and highlight your name and change it to Michael Hayes. So we're going to go over the different changes to make to this file in class, but I wanted to show you how you get that in there. So there's some of the capabilities there, code, split, and design view. I can come up here and save this file real quick so it has my changes made in it. I can also preview a file, so if I go to the little globe icon right there, I could come down and select one of the browsers on my computer and go preview this page in a browser. So let's see, I'm already running Safari, so I'm going to select Safari. And no, I wasn't running Safari, so we're going to wait for Safari to launch. There we go. And there's my file. So we'll close that out. So you can preview them as well while you're in here. Okay, I'm going to close that file up. The one other thing I want to show you here in the Files panel before we wrap up, I showed you that this is the local file right here, or the local folder, your root folder. This on this side, this is your remote server. So I can come over here to where we have the little plugs icon. You see it says connect to remote server. If I click on that, it wants to connect to that server. Now at this point it's asking for my password. Remember, we did not save it, so I'm going to have to type my password and say OK. It's connecting. Okay, so it has connected to the remote server. You can see that it states its location as M6, which must have to do with the computer it's sitting on. BM Hayes, my username, and then the public HTML folder. So that's how we get the folder set right there. So there's nothing there right now. I've not uploaded anything to this location yet. Let's go ahead and upload something real quick before we wrap up this tutorial. We can upload a couple different ways. You can click on something, say I just want to upload the index only, and right there you see the put files to remote server, the up arrow. I can click on that. It's going to ask me whether it should put independent or put dependent files up. I'm going to say no, put just that one file up, and you see it's now placed it over here. I can also grab the whole root folder here on the local side, and I can put the whole folder up there. So dragging from one side to the other doesn't work. I have to click on a folder or a location. So I click on that, hit the upload. It says, do I want to put the entire site? So yes, let's do that and say OK. And there it goes. It's pushing all my files up there for me. So we give this a moment. It's going to take a few moments. Actually, at this point, you see that I already have the index because I put it up independently. Let's go over to the browser. I was running Firefox before. I'm going to create a new tab. And you remember that the web address is myweb.csuchico.edu. And then it's the tilde and your username. Okay, so this is a live website. I'm going to push return. And there we go. There's the index file that I uploaded a minute ago. So we're no longer looking at the local file, we're looking at the file that's sitting out there on the internet. So it works pretty well that way. Here we go. This thing has completed. So I can go ahead and close that window, and you see that what I have locally now matches what I have remotely. So this is how we're going to work with those two sets of files. We edit the files locally, then we push the changes up remotely. So that is it for this time around. The next video we're going to look at making more edits to our index file, uploading those, making sure that we can actually see those up there live on the web.